What significance does Renaissance philosophy have to offer us as a species? It seems only reasonable that the whole is the summation of its parts. But you say, if I lose an arm, leg, kidney, I am still who I am. That is a fair statement. However, there is no denying that you are no longer what you were before. You have changed. Since reason tells us we exist, we have little choice but to assume we are a part of something. We may be part of only the universe and nothing else, but if the universe exists, then it is only reasonable to assume it is a part of something greater. This statement itself is nothing other than a statement confirming what we call a causative force, what religion calls God. If that is the case, then it would seem reasonable that the causative force is part of something bigger. Again, perhaps this is true. No wonder religion has a difficult time accepting the rationale of pure reason, or philosophy, which Renaissance philosophy opened up. Even Renaissance philosophy has a difficult time understanding itself. Perhaps it is time we as a species divide reason into categories just as we do science and mathematics. Science and mathematics have their practical side and their cutting-edge theoretical side, in a sense. This has already been done with philosophy. We have philosophical study of how our universe interacts with what lies beyond it. Cosmology and metaphysics, and how our universe interacts with what lies within it. Existentialism, pragmatism, phenomenology. Perhaps if we removed the burden of having to deal with what lay beyond the causative force, or God, from the realm of cosmology and metaphysics, the two would develop a unified view of a causative force and the universe. The process of removing the study of the causative force and her interaction with what lies beyond her, it, him, can only take place if we put such a concept into another category. We cannot throw such a concept out and forget about it. There is no denying it exists, if only just as a concept. Once having created such a category and removing its realm out of the field of cosmology and metaphysics, these two can begin to build a model of a causative force, the universe, and ourselves. Cosmology and metaphysics would no longer be distracted by the questions, if the causative force created us, who created the causative force, or God? If physical matter can be broken down into the abstract, what can the abstract be broken down to? The building of a unified view could then begin, and our species could begin to understand why it exists. What is the significance does Renaissance philosophy have to offer other life forms in the universe? If we, using reason, can begin to understand the significance for the existence of our species, we would begin to have an understanding of the significance of other life forms and the reasons they have for their existing. We have had many experiences with building models and defining significance, and none of them were very beneficial to humanity as a whole. Models based upon religions were very detrimental to the unbelievers. Models based upon what we saw, skin color, physical strength, gender, sexual orientation, proved again to be very detrimental to one group or another within society. If we build a model of a unified view based upon what we as Homo sapiens look like, or what we believe, then we will once again have a model that will find itself covered with blood. This time, the blood may not just be human, but the blood of other life forms outside our solar system. The way to avoid this is to fall back upon the concept of Renaissance philosophy and use reason to develop a model broad enough to incorporate what we believe and what we see. But this is not enough. It must be a model so basic it would find itself able to withstand the onslaught of almost any new ideas we encounter. It must be strong enough and basic enough to resist any attempt made to refute it. It cannot be a religion, for religion is only as good as what we believe to be true. It cannot be a science, for science is only as good as what we think we see. It has to be a model based upon what seems reasonable in terms of what we see, believe, and reason. To be almost irrefutable, the model would have to be based upon something outside the universe. As such, the abstraction would most likely become a model we could carry with us to the very edge of the universe itself. Standing at the very edge of our universe, leaning against the boundary, we would be able to say that the existence of this wall, enclosing our very existence, is proof of logic upon which our model is built. This wall is the symbol we, earthlings and otherwise, have to unite in a common reason for existence, a common purpose, for all of us exist within a universe whose very walls we are leaning upon rest within another entity of some form, a causative force, or God. We all of us, in some manner or other, impact what lies beyond. We all have significance. What does Renaissance philosophy imply about our significance in eternity? If there is no eternity, what would exist should the universe dissolve? Why is time a function of mass and energy if time is eternal? Why would the concept of eternal existence be a part of our thought process? Why even ask the question? Just the fact of an idea existing provides some form of logic to the existence of such an idea. But, some would say, we think of spirits, ghosts, the devil, heaven, and hell, and they do not exist. We think of UFOs traveling to other galaxies, anti-gravity and death rays, and they do not exist as far as we know. We think in terms of an outside of the universe, abstract ideas being pieces of the causative force and purpose, and they do not necessarily exist. Some think life is utterly purposeless. So what makes us think eternity exists? First of all, the examples to which we referred are concepts found basically embraced by the fields of religion, science, or philosophy. None of these ideas are embraced by all three, yet most people embrace one or more of these ideas, whether they know it or not. Eternity is different from all the concepts mentioned because it is embraced by all three areas. The fields of religion, science, and philosophy may not acknowledge this statement, but there is little denying that they are all obsessed with finding eternity in some form or another. Humanity's quest for answers. Religion holds fast to the concept of eternity out of faith. Science seeks to know what exists beyond time, beyond the universe. Philosophy seems to be obsessed with finding what it calls the essence of life. Not only are all three infatuated with the concept of eternity, but all three are infatuated with understanding how we would be connected to it and why. We should all hope eternity has significance, for we are most probably a part of it, and if eternity has no significance, most probably neither do we. We seriously consider an idea to be valid when only one of the three, faith, observation, or reason, seriously considers the idea to be reasonable. If such is the case, then why can't we consider an idea to be worthy of serious examination when all three appear to acknowledge the idea is valid? Reason would seem to imply eternity may just as surely exist as a physical world wrapped around time. And if eternity exists, there is no logical reason to think it has any less significance than time, than the time-space we are familiar with. Something which would probably, most probably, is a part, a subset, or a part, an emanation of eternity. What does Renaissance philosophy imply about our relationship to God, or the causative force? The idea of our being within a causative force leads to the idea of our interacting with a causative force. Reason, faith, and observation all seem to point in this direction to some degree or other. Mystical experiences often convey and even affirm that there is indeed an interacting with God or causative force. Most religions appear to orient around the concept of a causative force existing, and we being involved with her. To some religions, we are intended to glorify this force. To others, we are a means by which she obtains entertainment. Others think we are an object to be fought over by many abstract entities or gods. An example would be probably the God versus Satan motif. Whatever the case, interaction takes place. Religions sense it is only reasonable for a causative force to exist and to have created this physical universe. Religions feel it is only reasonable to believe the causative force is aware of what she created and relates, interacts in some manner with it, if only minimal. Science believes we exist and moves on from there. Science does not base its own purpose upon an interaction between God, the causative force of the universe, and humankind. Science works in a more aloof manner and begins from the point of our existing and functioning within a universe. But using the concept of our existing as a base is a statement of belief or faith. Science is fairly certain we did not always exist. Science has the concepts of beginning and end, birth and death, expansion and contraction, cause and effect, impregnated throughout each and every one of its fields of study. The universe is not exempt from this idea, and as such, the concept of a causative force is not new to science, nor is the idea of our universe somehow interacting with such a force It would only seem reasonable, therefore, that we, being a part of the universe, would interact in some manner or other with the causative force, or what religion has called God in a general sense. The causative force, the universe, and you and I exist. The causative force, the universe, and you and I interact. Reason, supported by religion and science, tells us this is most likely true. Reason begins to offer us options over the religious concept of our being in a subservient state of supplication. Reason begins to offer us options over the scientific concept of our being in a state of existence with no purpose. A relationship between ourselves and a causative force, or God, begins to emerge as we combine what we know of all three: science, religion, spirituality, and philosophy. In conclusion of the Renaissance philosophy section of this, how do the concepts of Renaissance philosophy reinforce the concept of symbiotic panentheism? They do not. What is actually taking place is symbiotic panentheism is reinforcing the concepts of the significance of Renaissance philosophy. The process of reason was the major concept established by Renaissance philosophy, and reason suggests life is more than life. Science tells us that all things change. Change is inevitable. A biome is the sum of its parts, and each biome is a part of a greater biome. Niches fall within niches. All closed systems eventually die. The universe is bounded, and on it goes. All of this, all concepts in science, point toward the idea of our universe being a part of something greater than itself, which in turn interacts with its creation, and its creation with symbiotic panentheism. Religion tells us that the causative force exists, is located outside as well as inside our universe, although a large portion of humanity may be unaware or in denial of this fact, such is the case of atheistic concepts. So, that it's located outside as well as inside our universe, is eternal and omnipresent everywhere at once. All of these concepts of major modern-day religions point toward the idea of our universe being a part of something greater than itself, which in turn interacts with its creation and its creation with it. In other words, symbiotic panentheism. Symbiotic panentheism is a model, only a model. It is a model that supports not only the ideas of science and religion, but the ideas of Renaissance philosophy, ancient philosophy, early Christian philosophy, Confucianism, Taoism, etc. None of these ideas emerged from symbiotic panentheism, but rather symbiotic panentheism emerged from them. Symbiotic panentheism did not emerge from any one of them, but from the sum of them. This is as it should be for any model developed as a unified view or a universal philosophy. But universal philosophies must go further than emerging from what we as humans believe and see. A unified view, a universal philosophy, must reach out to the very edge of the universe and embrace all within the universe. or it is not universal. In fact, a universal philosophy must reach even beyond the boundary of the universe and embrace what the universe is a part of. Developing a universal philosophy capable of embracing only what is within the universe limits our existence to the universe, to time, to mortality. A universal philosophy must remain generic and capable of embracing the discovery of a myriad of other universes. Open, an open system and not a closed system. Each working to expand the omniscience of God, or a causative force.